To know most every one of these presenters on a very good level. You don't know what to say, Bobby Kucha. I know them on a personal level, and so when I get to introduce them, and the other ones that I don't know, I've already met, and so when I get to introduce them, it's actually an honor. So I take this very personal, and I take it with a deep amount of gratitude that I get to do this. And the first person that we have up is someone who should be first, and her name is Annette, and she's been in the industry and been a massive component to the industry. In the sales component, she's been in management, she's been in the training, the education, she's done it all. And she still's an active trainer. And she has a great bio, and she has all these things that she talks about in her bio. And she's been in the club, she's worked around the world, she's been around the world, she's presented at every major conference, she's done all those great things. But what you're going to see and what you'll get when you spend time with her is that she's one of the truly authentic people in the industry. And when I say authentic, is she's speaking from absolute experience, not just all the educational knowledge that she has, but it's the application that she's applied that with on people, because she's been in your shoes, regardless of what your shoes may be, whether it's in the sales department, whether it's in management, whether it's in training, she's been in there, she's done it. And so when she's speaking, she's going to give you authenticity, and she's going to give you reality, and she's going to give you some sweet tidbits. So I would highly suggest that you pay attention and glean from her, because she has done more for this industry than most people will ever do. And I just want to sincerely thank her personally, and I would like to have you guys give her a round of applause, and please welcome Annette Lang.
Good morning. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, FitPro, for inviting me here today, and thank you guys for taking the time to come and listen to me. I've always felt that we are behavior change facilitators. My working definition of health education, any combination of learning experiences that are designed to facilitate the voluntary adoption of behavior conducive to health. You might have heard me speak about this before. The word experience has already been said about 40 times this morning. So I keep thinking, we really are experience designers, right? Whether you own a facility or you're trying to develop new product, you're designing a program, teaching group fitness, we are experience designers. So I figure maybe I need to learn more about what that truly means. The word experience has been around for a long time. Way back in 1998, Pine and Gilmore in the Harvard Business Review talked about customer experience. No longer just a cup of coffee, right? No longer a commodity, but an experience. And so they talk about the end user and not having design as an afterthought, but really incorporating it from the very beginning. So I, by accident, got enrolled in a full-time immersion course of experience design when I met my husband about 14 years ago. Trained and worked as an architect, trained and worked as a designer, and don't get him started about the difference between those two professions. We were sitting at a bar talking, and I was talking about proprioception because the barefoot running movement had just started gaining traction, and Scott was talking about design. And so I'm like, yeah, I get it, design, right? Disney World, everybody is an actor, everybody plays a role, right? And he goes, yeah, but you really have to understand how a designer thinks, because you truly are designing experiences for your clients. You're my end user this morning, right? So did I keep you guys in mind when preparing this presentation? My first lesson started with a bottle. So how does a designer have to think about this when you keep the end user in mind the entire time? Well, is the bottle going to hold something or transfer something, carry something? Is it going to hold dried flowers or liquid? Okay, liquid. Let's say liquid. Is the liquid going to be thick, thin? Is it going to need protection from light? Because that will affect the material of the bottle. Speaking of material, is it going to be sustainable? Is it going to be locally sourced? Because the end user might very well decide whether to buy your bottle or somebody else's based on those choices. What about the cover or lid? Is it going to be merely functional, or is it going to be pretty? Is it going to attract you or seduce you to buy it? So when I do stuff like this, it helps me be better as a personal trainer in being critical about my design. And it helps me be better as a teacher in designing my presentation. When you open the bottle, first of all, is it easy to open? We've seen bottles that are difficult for older people with arthritis to open. We unfortunately have seen bottles that are too easy for young children to open, right? Once you open that bottle, are you going to drink from it or are you going to pour from it? My cousins in Germany have educated me through the years, when you drink beer out of the boot, there's a technique when the beer gets to the bottom by the heel, because if you're not careful, it'll splash in the face. Right? So all of these things, I think, okay, so then what does that mean as far as what I pick for my client to do today? You know, I don't have I work in private personal training, so I go to people's apartment buildings with gyms in the basement. So when it's really loud and noisy for my client who gets very distracted and upset by that noise, what can I do instantaneously without him knowing it to make him feel better? Not necessarily about fitness, but it's everything about the experience. Simple beer glass. Well, they're mass-produced in China, aren't they? Well, no. Somebody at some point had to design it. I like those glasses. What do you like about them? Can you tell me specifically? I like the curve. I like the way it's shaped. It's easier to grab and easier to hold. It's a little sexy, so I like that. Do you want your glass to say something else? Why does a red wine glass look different than a white wine glass? What's the experience behind it that the person is trying to reach? Do you want it to say something else, something fun? So, what I would like to do is talk about cars. My husband, the men in my husband's family are car freaks. But then you start appreciating how nice cars used to look. Look at the nice line of the car. It doesn't just end in a clunky fashion. Well, what did I just do in my training session that was clunky? Right? Seamless, beautiful. How does the door feel when you close it? What does the handle look like and feel like? If you're manufacturing equipment, this would help to think like that, keeping that end user in mind the entire time. The first time we rented a car together, Scott said, make sure you get a convertible, preferably red. And I said, oh, come on, it's too expensive. And he said, but the experience that you have when you first see the car pull up changes your trip. And he's right. So then with emission standards and economy changes, trying to save money, some car manufacturers streamlined the design, perhaps a little more boring in some people's eyes. If I had to drive across the United States, I'd probably pick something like that. So when I get better at critiquing things in my life, I get better at applying it to my work. It took me about, 6-8 months to get a stainless steel water bottle. Want to be green, right? One leaked all over my backpack in an airplane. Another one was too difficult to open and close. So how does that apply to me when I try to teach you or try to help you with your personal training program? We are experienced designers, and design can't be an afterthought. People sitting in certain sections of the airplane have a much different experience than I do back in coach. People get paid big money to design the interior of hotel lobbies. We know this. The way the spa feels and looks. What are you supposed to feel when you go there? The new museum in New York, first time I went there, blew my mind. I never understood how the entire room could affect the experience. One time there was a horse's ass sticking out of the wall. So I'm like, wow, what is that supposed to make me feel like? Right? But so museum exhibitions used to be defined by what they displayed and collected, and now they're judged by the quality of the stories. So what story are we trying to design? You better want an experience as opposed to simply a meal if you're going to pay $285 per person for a tasting menu. And we know some health clubs have tried to do this throughout the years. Tomorrow, we'll get a chance to experience exhibit design. So at the trade show, will one of the booths entice you to come in? And will there be a seamless journey that you will go through in listening to these people talk to you? And did they keep in mind the end user when they developed the product, when they decided on how to design their booth? So I thought I would talk about a couple of very specific examples that helped me in personal training and in teaching workshops. And this comes from the design thinking process. It's persona development, scenario development, and then storyboarding it to get clear in your head. First of all, I want to get out of my fitness head. So that's why these exercises, the puns are wonderful. These exercises help me in my career. Persona development, scenario development, and then storyboarding it. So, what's persona development? Basically, you develop characters and you identify specific characteristics related to them. It doesn't mean you have to want to work with millennials. I'm just saying this is an exercise, right? So, I want to work with millennials. Persona. I'm going to identify specific characteristics about these people. So let's say she's a 20-something-year-old, and her name is Gladys. Because I feel like a lot of millennials have those older names now again. She has a job as a graphic designer at a startup company. She likes her job, but she doesn't feel married to her job. She doesn't see that she'll have a career for 40 years and then retire with a defined benefit. She sees herself as having many different jobs. She doesn't own, she rents. She's environmentally conscious. She doesn't use paper towels at home. Who is this person? Nothing to do with fitness, but everything to do with an experience. She hasn't watched a full-length TV show since her mom visited 6 months ago. She's adventurous. She's active on a daily basis. So you develop these personas. You read about phone designers where they develop various personas. And who are these people that are going to use those phones? Design is never an afterthought. It's part of the process. Sometimes it helps me to look at examples where it wasn't maybe done that well so that I could be better in my efforts. When I was working at the first Equinox Club in New York City in the mid-90s, a friend of mine was working at a mom-and-pop health club in suburbia, and he was telling me about a senior membership that they tried to offer. And this is how he talked about this. The owners of the health club sat down and were thinking about ways so that they could earn more money, increase their revenue, contribute to the bottom line. And they said, you know, we're really quiet in the middle of the afternoon. How do we fill up that space? Seniors. Seniors have flexible time and they have disposable income. Let's set up a senior membership. They nudged on the persona design. They just barely got started. But they didn't follow through with the scenario development. They never identified what the seniors wanted or needed. Music, choice of programming, choice of classes. Can they get into the place? Can they drive there? Can they park? Wheelchair accessible. All of those things weren't considered. And it didn't work out that well. So if I go back to the millennials, I've got my persona development, and then I think scenario. What does fitness mean to a millennial in 20 years from now? Because if I can figure that out and address it now, I've got business. She's active on a daily basis. She loves short films, videos. Maybe, I hope nobody here owns a health club, but maybe there are no health clubs. Maybe it's just a series of apps that she accesses during the day to stay active. Another persona, her friend, thinks golf courses should be eliminated. Waste of space, valuable resources, polluting the environment. So who are these people and what do they need and what do they want? And if I can get better at doing this exercise, then when I look at my client, Jerry, I can be better at that. Persona development and scenario development. And you storyboard it, right? So you take those Post-its, take a pencil and a pen, and you put them up on the wall. And then you can change it and see what fits. You can leave it up there for a day and come back the next day and say, this doesn't make any sense. But you continue that process the whole time. It's not an afterthought. Talk about persona development and scenario development. This woman, Pat Moore, in the 70s, was a young designer, and she got frustrated because this design thinking, the end user, was not being addressed. A couple of examples: she was concerned about gripping kitchen tools for people that had arthritis and was told, don't worry about it, we'll figure that out later. She said, that's not good enough. She talks about designing transportation vehicles that were supposed to take older people to different places. And she was concerned that it wasn't easy enough to open the door to get in and out of the vehicle. And so with her frustrations, she went on this journey for a couple of years. She's in her low to mid-20s. She lived as an 85-year-old woman. She used braces and taping to distort her posture, uneven shoes, smudged up her glasses, put cotton in her ears, and it's just amazing the stories that she tells. But this is taking the design process and the end user and not having it as an afterthought. Robert Bruner, Beats by Dre, the headphones. He was interviewed in April in New York City by Bloomberg News, talking about, because it was Design Week in New York. And he kept talking about it's not an afterthought. And so the interviewer said, well, how come I can go to a business school and I don't get any design classes? And he said, that's changing. So why don't we have design education to teach personal trainers, not making it an afterthought. If we say we're designers of experiences, we are. So let's learn from that profession. It's very popular to have students design chairs. I'm like, why does everybody have to design a chair? And they tell me because it's a perfect balance of function and beauty, right? One time I went to a presentation at Pratt Institute where they were, all the students had their products out. And the object was fluidity in designing chairs, like no visible means of like nails and stuff, right? So I was listening to this professor give feedback to the student, and it was just amazing to listen to the terminology she was using. She said, you seduced me. You had me. I was in. Look at the beautiful lines of the chair on top. Continuous. And then you stopped. You lost me. You sold out. Because on the bottom of the chair it got clunky. You know, I did this on Monday morning in New York. My client, Jerry, 83 years old, we get done in the gym and we walk together to the elevator. And I was in a hurry, and I pulled out my phone and walked in front of him about 4 steps. And I'm like, that just got clunky, right? It doesn't have anything to do with fitness, but it's totally about that experience. So I'm always catching myself, you know, I did it again, you know, where I could be better. If you're gonna design a chair, those are my parents. She's not sleeping, she's just looking down. But you know, if you're going to design a chair for people like that, you better keep that in mind from the start. Or are you going to design a chair for old people with bad backs? So it can't be an afterthought. Back to my client, Jerry. So persona development, scenario development. What do I know about this person? What are the characteristics about him that I have to keep in mind? Well, I could take out my computer and my tablet and just do bullet points, like I always do, but I've started storyboarding. So you take the Post-it notes, you take paper, and you identify characteristics about this person, not fitness, not necessarily fitness. So all these things that I know about him, and then how can I develop scenarios to make the experience more positive? He gets tired very quickly. So could I change the order or the choices to where he doesn't know that I'm letting him catch his breath? but I'm doing the, wall sit with overhead reach so that he doesn't have to sit here and feel like he's wasting time catching his breath. So you storyboard and you change it and you see what works, but you keep that idea in your head the entire time. I went to the International Council on Active Aging conference in Florida in November, and the session was on urinary incontinence. I'm not going to talk about that now, but we will address it in the conference. This woman was talking about policy changes in nursing homes, and she said, how dare we give an 85-year-old man who has dementia a diuretic and not have as part of the plan to come back an hour later and take him to the bathroom so that he doesn't pee and poop on himself. Like, that wasn't part of the plan. So how does that change the experience of this man and the family who comes and visits him? She's talking about freaking policy changes in nursing homes based on this design thinking, not forgetting who that end user is. And I know sometimes I get so confused when I try to think about this stuff, but you just have to keep practicing and keep it in your head, and then you get better. I'm much better at being able to identify why the backpack sucks, why the coffee can doesn't work for me. So I'm getting better and then trying to apply it to my profession. How about this nursing home, where they combine a preschool and a nursing home? Talk about what kind of experience is that for those people. A couple of years ago, the Mayo Clinic started embracing this concept. They no longer wanted the design to be an afterthought, and so they started storyboarding, thinking about the people who they serve in their clinics and the patients, and not losing track of them from the very beginning of the design of the building, the health care provided, the prescriptions, everything. So, how can we be better at design thinking in our jobs? If you own a club, if you're building clubs, if you manage clubs, if you teach group fitness, if you're a personal trainer, I think about it in teaching workshops. If we're going to provide education programs for our trainers, which we do, right? What if we did that? What if we did the persona development and the scenario development? So the persona development, who are these personal trainers and fitness professionals? Career change, single mom, ex-athlete. What do they need and what do they want in the scenario development? I would say at least one person in every one of my workshops on the break, or when we're talking about like how's the personal training business going these days, at least one person every workshop says, my boss is all about sales. All they care about is sales. All they care about is sales. And the client, the trainer, who is now our client, feels pressured and intimidated. So what I tell those trainers is when your manager says money, 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 sales, 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 what I want you to do is flip that in your head. What they're really trying to get you to realize is they want you to help more people. So now, how can you help more people? Change your mindset. But why can't we teach it that way? Why can't we teach it that way? Why can't we have the personal trainer as the end user and help them think about it a different way, not sales, 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 numbers, numbers, numbers? Why can't we do that? I had to get this in there. You guys know what this is, right? World Cup, America won? Okay. Anyway, I gave you pencils and Post-it notes, and I see FitPro is also thinking the same way with the notepad and the pens. I invite you to try it, and again, it helps me if I use it with other examples, not necessarily fitness. Get out of the fitness head, practice persona development, scenario development, practice being better at critiquing what you like, what you don't like, so that you can then apply it to your individual job. Thank you very much.
All right, real quick. We got about 5 minutes. Anybody have any questions for Annette?
All right, great.
And you guys understood exactly what she was saying. Design is not, eh. The end of your pen is a highlighter. The highlight is design, is not fill in the blank. It's not an afterthought. It's part of the process. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. No one has any questions?
We can talk later. Oh, yeah, oh, Bobby Capuccio.
Bobby, please.
I have a question. First, I think that was one of the most brilliant presentations I've seen in the organization before. Thanks so much for that.
What Bobby said was that was one of the most brilliant presentations.
Yes, but that wasn't my question. My question on the back end of that statement was, companies like Google, Apple obsess over this. Fitness professionals are not indoctrinated in this process of thought. Let's say something that you said inspired most of the people in the room, and I really hope it did. Where do we go from here? Where can we immerse ourselves in design-based thinking so there's no separation between where we end and where that mindset begins?
You go to Scott Lundberg. No, I'm just joking. There's lots of, obviously, you can Google references on design thinking. To me, it helped a lot to just keep practicing persona development, scenario development, and be critical from day one, from the morning when you get up, on why you like something, why you don't like it. Is that chair comfortable? Why? Why not? What would you do better? And that helps you get into this head a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes?
When I just came in, I was speaking with Ian O'Dwyer, and we were talking about the concept that we as fitness professionals are not taught to coach. We are taught, I mean coaching in the purest sense, we're taught to say, watch me, I do it like this, you copy me. And I feel that until there's coaching education as part of standard, so you're learning your A&P, you're learning how to do first aid, you're learning how to work a rowing machine, and then you're actually taught to coach and to lead and empower. And also when you're speaking, when you're trying to elicit that change from the client, it's change on their terms. It isn't, look, I'm really buff, you want to look like me, do this. It's about, well, what matters to you? But I feel that we don't have this as a bog standard in our education. And I think definitely when you're coming into this at like 19, I don't know whether you actually have the life skills as well to do it.
Well, I think some organizations like PTA Global with the motivational interviewing, we're trying to, but I mean, it's us, right? So we have to do it. You have to do it.